Hey everybody, a couple weeks ago I took all the electronics out of my stock steering wheel from my Ford Ranger Raptor and put it in this awesome carbon fiber steering wheel. Everything was working except for the paddle shifters because I did replace the aluminum paddle shifters with these carbon fiber ones. And when I did that, I wasn't looking close enough and figuring out what exactly I was doing. You take the hardware out, it's this little white spring thing, and I pushed it back in the existing modules, and it turns out I bent a piece of copper that moves back and forth to complete the circuit. And when I installed this back on my truck, my paddle shifters didn't work. I took it out, took it apart, put it back together 3 or 4 different times, never started working. And finally, before I went and bought new shifting modules, I took the actual module itself apart and realized it is a very simple and basic piece of equipment. There's no circuitry in there. It's just a wire, and it has to connect a circuit when that piece of metal slides over. So I kept looking down there, seeing this loose piece of copper, not sure what it was supposed to be. This video, I'm going to show you exactly what that thing is, how you can get to it, how you got to bend it back and put it back together, and I can promise you your shifters will work again. Nothing is broken, nothing is beyond repair. It's definitely fixable as long as you're willing to take your steering wheel back out and do this again. So right now I'm just going to time lapse through and get down to the modules, then we'll get into the specifics of how to fix this symptom of your paddle shifters not working. So we've got the module out, and you can see there's a split pin in here, and the perfect tool to get that out is the same T20 you use to get all those bolts out. So I just hold it in my hand. This pushes on the actual split pin, but doesn't push on the sides. Pushes it just enough through so it can stick out a little bit on that side. If you're careful, you can just grab it with a pair of pliers. These are vice grips. I'm not putting a lot of tension, and just slowly pull it out. But if you want to be even more precautious, take something small. This is just a micro file. You could use like a pick tool. Trying to see if I have a good example. This is a bent pick tool, but if you had a straight pick tool, you could put it in there. And all you're doing by putting it in there is so when you do press down with the pliers, you're not squishing the actual metal. It's a solid piece all the way through. So now I could clamp down as tight as I want on this. Don't really need to, but it's just something to do to be a little bit more careful. And now, pull the whole thing out. And now what I want to show you is when you do take this thing out of here, you'll notice this thing kind of falls right out. Inside of there, you see that piece of copper. You probably, when you put this thing, you took it out and put it in, did exactly the same thing I did, didn't actually look in there. You were just more interested in this little piece and that, getting it from your old one to your new one. You put it on and you just shoved it back down in there. And what you probably did, the same thing I did, is actually pushed on that copper thing and didn't get this piece centered in it and just bent it down. So if you're careful when you do this, you don't have to take the whole module apart like I had to, but if you've already bent it, you're gonna have to take the backing off of the module to get to that piece. I was in there with pick tools trying to move that thing around, and it just would not work. So the way I actually fixed it was to take this whole thing off, and you'll notice there's a clip here, there's a clip there, there's 2 clips here, and there's a clip here. So it is extremely difficult to get to with one hand, but the way I figured out how to do it is I hold it in my hand, just like with my middle finger here, so my thumb can push on this one, and then I just take a whole bunch of little screwdrivers and little pieces and just start slowly trying to get, actually I'm gonna use a pick, but you just gotta try to get all of these things undone, and eventually, all right, so that might take you a while. It's kind of a pain, but there's the piece of metal that you need to get to. All right, so this is the part we just took off. You've got 2 wire connections, and all they are doing is one of those is going to that metal piece on the bottom, one's going to the metal piece on the top. And then when this thing is in here, it's over on this side, hooked up to that little white thing, and when you hit the paddle shifter, it moves over to complete the circuit and moves back, moves over to complete the circuit and moves back. So all you're doing is you're either reading 0 volts or 12 volts when you're hooked up to everything. And when it sees 12 volts, it knows which paddle it is and it shifts for you. But when I did this and I pushed those things back down there, I bent this thing totally flat, so it wasn't actually moving. It didn't have enough pressure to push through all that grease, so it wasn't making the connection. So when you take this thing back out, if yours is like mine, most likely, these 2 wings here are gonna be flattened down, and those 2 wings ride on the back here. And these 2 guys that go down, I'm calling those side pieces the wings, and then we'll call these the lobes. These are probably also flat, but you'll notice they have a little bit of a dimple on them. Those are going to be what make the actual connection, and you just got to bend it down, just kind of get it back into shape, and I over-exaggerated it a little bit, but the great thing is now that you have this out of here, you can put your shifter back together, and now it's through there. So you can't mess it up this time. I did break that clip. I'm kind of out of luck on that, but it is what it is. Sometimes we make mistakes. So, all right, so I'm gonna put my split pin back in here. You can even test it a little bit. So it's working, and when you do that, you will see here, that thing is moving from left to right. It's also moving down and up a little bit. That's why the bend in this is important, because it has to be engaged up and down. So this goes on here like that. And then if you look at what this thing is going to be doing, I'm trying to get it lined back up. So it's going to end up back on here like this. So when this is over to the left, it's over on this side, not making any connection. When you hit the paddle shifter, it moves over and it puts that piece of metal and connects the circuit, and all of a sudden it's going to get a voltage. So now that this is back on there the way it needs to be, I'm just going to slide this right back down on here. Make sure everything's good. And we're back in. Now, before I put this back in my truck, what I'm going to do is actually test it to make sure it's actually going to be connecting the circuit when I hit the paddle shifter. And that's where the voltmeter comes in. I've got my voltmeter set to basically beep at me when there's connectivity. So when I touch these together, it beeps. So now what I'm going to do is, it's a kind of a tight squeeze. It's good to have a second person if you can, but not required. You got to get these two pins in there, and if you have alligator clips, that's even better. But you've got to get one on each pin. It shouldn't make a noise until you actually hit the clicker, the paddle shifter, and when you do that, that piece of metal will slide over and connect these two, and it'll beep at you. So I'm actually going to grab one of my helpers. Ave, what I need you to do is pinch like this and do that. So can you do that once for me? Okay, perfect. So don't do it yet. All right, so now I've got the black one on one pin, the red one on the other pin. Hold it, click it and hold it, and let go. Do it again. All right, let go. So now we know it works. I can put my steering wheel back together. Thank you for the help, Avery.
Why did you take it apart again?
Because I wanted to show all these people how to fix it, because I saw online that other people had the same problem as me. All right, guys, so that's how you fix it. You don't need any more parts. Do your best not to bend anything, but there are 5 clips on here. And like you saw on mine, I bent that, but it actually kind of holds back in place when you put everything in there, and it is definitely not going anywhere. And it was broken, and you saw how hard of a time I had getting it off anyway. So 4 clips is more than enough to hold it. A 5th is just gravy, I guess. And my other one was the same way, so I took this one off before. I'm not going to do it again because I already showed you how to do it. But same process, you just got to get that piece of metal bent correctly, and then you're good to go. So I'm going to put my steering wheel back together, put it in my truck. Got it back in my truck, everything's functional, it's all working, the test was good inside, and it works in the truck. So this is for a Ranger Raptor, but it should work for an F-150 Raptor, it should work for a regular F-150 with paddle shifters, the Broncos, the Fusions. They all use pretty similar, based on the pictures I saw, shifter levers and the modules in there. So I'm pretty sure they're all going to be about the same. Don't be afraid to get in there. If you're able to take your wheel off and change it out for carbon stuff to make it look awesome, you're able to take it back off and get that one more little piece off and shape that piece of metal back together and put it back on there. Make sure it still has plenty of that grease in there. Don't put regular grease, it's dielectric grease, so if you do need to add more, make sure you get the right stuff, but what's in there should be more than enough. All right, guys, this is not my normal kind of video. I wasn't even gonna make one on this, but I went online and saw how many other people were having the same issue I had and figured I probably should put something together, because based on my search, no one else has actually put anything out on how to fix these things. So that's it. See you guys all later. It's raining. I'm done here. Cheers.
It's over!